Hi, Andy Sway again, coming to you from my office on the corner of 26th and Broadway in Manhattan, where I do my healing and hypnosis work. Today's video is the second in my series about Muggle management. How to manage the Muggles in your life and, all the things that they throw in your direction. Today's video is going to be about this thing that you will get hit with a lot when you share your kind of magical experiences, whatever they may be. And that is that there is no proof of. There is no proof of psychic phenomena. There is no proof of reincarnation, or you will hear there is no evidence. And what's interesting is that when you get this kind of objection to something like past life regression that I do, and people say there's no proof of past lives, that's ridiculous, that's superstitious, that's hocus pocus, whatever. Well, here's what I like to say to that. Can you please tell me about your research into the evidence or lack of evidence about this? What I find interesting is that a lot of these people consider themselves very scientifically minded. And so their whole objection is coming from this place of that there's no scientific evidence for a soul, there's no scientific evidence for a soul reincarnating, for reincarnation at all. But what you're going to find out is that most of these people have really not done a very thorough job researching whether there is scientific evidence. Now, you can go on YouTube, or you can go on Google, or you can go to the library, and you can do a search for reincarnation or past lives or psychic phenomena or anything. And you will find that there is actually a lot of research out there. Now, I'm not scientifically minded, so I'm not out there doing a bunch of research. My research is that I do past life regressions on clients, and I don't really care whether it's... I'm not here to prove that reincarnation is true or not. What I'm here to do is help people transform in really profound ways. So I always tell clients, you don't need to believe in reincarnation. You can just imagine that when you see a past life, that you're dipping into the collective unconscious. You can even believe that you're making it up. It doesn't matter, because when you encounter a situation in a past life that brings healing to you through the emotions that you experience and the release, the tears that come, that's good enough for me. I don't need scientific proof, because it's just like, here's another way to say it. There's no scientific evidence that you love your mother. You tell me you love your mother, but you could be lying. There is absolutely no proof that you love your mother. There's no proof that you really like what you say is your favorite food, right? These are all subjective experiences, and we don't subject those things to science. We take people's word at it, or we don't. Or we say, well, he says he loves his mother, but I don't believe him because look at how he talks to her, or look at how he talks about her, whatever, right? But let's say you absolutely adore your mother. Let's say every outward sign is there that you absolutely adore your mother. If I want to apply this same standard to that and say, yeah, but show me the proof. I don't even believe there is love. Show me the proof. And they might be able to point to some brainwave thing, but I could say, well, that could be something else. That could be kind of associated with love, but I don't believe it, right? So you get into this realm of art versus science, emotion versus logic. And I don't need emotion versus logic. I can have both. I can have emotions and I can have logic. And if you refer to the first video of this series, this is not a religious conversion paradigm. I don't need people to believe. I don't even need for myself to believe. Because I think the universe is more mysterious than we can imagine. So believing is almost limiting the awesomeness of the universe. And why do that? That's crazy. I think people do have love. I think people do have valid subjective experiences. And so the idea that there is no proof of this, first of all, have you done your research? Have you objectively, scientifically, looked through the proof? And if so, well, tell me about it. Tell me about this. I remember, I believe it was a documentary that I saw. It was a woman in either England or Ireland. And she had this thing her whole life where she felt she left her babies behind. And she remembered a past life. She drew pictures of the village, and she knew her name and the kids. She was so poor she never even went from England to Ireland or whatever it was. Some of you might know that, but like I say, I don't do a bunch of research except for my sessions. In this documentary, they actually took her to this village, which looked like the way she drew it, and she actually met somebody that was her son from the past life. And that son said, yeah, I believe this is my mom. There was another documentary about a little kid that kept having nightmares about being shot down in a plane in World War II. Now, he described the plane, what kind of plane it was. I believe he knew his name in that life. And he described the aircraft carrier that his plane took off from. The interesting thing was that the kind of ship that his plane took off from was generally not used as an aircraft carrier. It was only this one ship out of all the other ships of this type that were used in this capacity. So when people first heard about it, they're like, no, that ship isn't an aircraft carrier. That's not used for that purpose. And then they researched it further and they found out that there was actually one ship that had been made into an aircraft carrier, one ship of that type. So they took the kid to the South Pacific where he had been shot down in the past life. He cried, he had a huge emotional reaction, and then he was kind of done with it. And the trauma released. Now that's the same thing that happens in a past life regression. People go back into an event, they cry, a lot of times they can't handle it. It's so intense. They end up handling it, but they feel like they're not going to be able to. Because they're reliving a trauma that on some level they've never processed. And when they relive it, and sometimes it's just one little tear comes down the side of their face, and the whole issue is resolved. And I've seen many people that resolve their issues in that way. But again, we who do this kind of work and we who are interested in this kind of work, it's a subtle thing. You can't prove to me scientifically that one artist is better than another artist. You can't prove that you love your mother. You can't prove that you love a certain food or a certain type of music. These are subjective things that you know, if you tell me that's what you like, I'll tend to believe you and not think that you're just lying about it, right? So when somebody hits you with that, when the muggles come after you with that, I urge you to ask them to go through the research that they have done. And I bet you're going to find at least 9 times out of 10, they've done very little to zero research on it. And so if they're so scientific, then why not apply some science to it? And if they're so scientific, then they should realize that they can't prove they love their mother. And only they know if they do. And if they do love their mother, how would they feel if somebody hit them where there's no evidence for that? Or the evidence for that is only anecdotal? And every type of behavior that you could exhibit of loving your mother could be faked. So really what it comes down to is we're dealing with a subtle realm. And I'll do another video on that. That'll probably be the next one. We're dealing with a subtle realm. We're dealing with subtle energies. We're dealing with emotion. We're not dealing with science. We're not dealing with double-blind experiments. Sorry, just not our area. And even the muggles need to acknowledge that not everything can be proved by science. And so maybe it would be a good thing for them to kind of recapture the original thrill of discovery that science used to be all about, instead of getting into this lack of curiosity. Because really it's just that there are subtle areas of emotion, subtle areas of human experience that I think threaten them. I think there are a lot of people who are very emotionally repressed. They have a lot of emotional issues, and they just have a very instinctive aversion to anything like what I do, energy healing, past life regression, and other things. And number 2, there is a lot of bullshit out there, and I realize that. And so therefore, yeah, on certain levels, I'm the most skeptical person too. If I meet somebody and they say, I'm a healer, I don't just say, oh wow, amazing. There's part of me that's skeptical too. And that's healthy. But to write off this whole realm of experience, you know, there are cultures like the Tibetan culture where they find the reincarnations of monks, and these kids, they know everything. They remember their past life to varying degrees. They don't all remember everything. And I'm not saying I believe every instance of that either. But I'm saying there are thousands of years of human experience that are being written off by this idea. There is no proof. So number 1, certain things can't be proved. And number 2, this is just something that most people don't even try to prove or disprove. They just kind of say this line in a kind of rote fashion that is meaningless. So next time somebody says that to you, I urge you to dig deep into all the research they've done. Go through it and have an open mind. Let them potentially convince you. Thanks so much for listening. Any more information you'd like about what I do will be down in the notes. You can go to my website, andysway.com, to find out about my services in New York or over the phone worldwide. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.